right, we're live. Let's hop in. So, guys, we have with us Kurt Arbuckle, and he's a friend, a client. We've known each other for 4 years now, 3 years now, something
Probably.
like that. Yeah, I've known your
Known
dad
my
longer.
dad longer.
Yeah. I cold called his dad back in 2018, 2019, and then met with him. And it's funny how your dad has tried to become a client, in the insurance business, but I still cannot get him as a client.
You haven't got him.
Just because of insurance stuff. And then prior to that, clothing didn't make sense at the time. But it's been so awesome to just know you guys, and be building that friendship over the years. So Kurt, tell us who Kurt Arbuckle is.
Who I am.
Yeah.
Well, basics. I grew up in Zionsville, and right before high school, during my 8th grade year, we moved up to West Lafayette.
Mm-hmm.
So went to high school in West Lafayette. From there, went to study business down at IU. From there, lived downtown, and then moved to the north side. I think, like any kid, when you move, I guess depending on the age, that's a pretty defining part in your life. And for me, it's very defining in a lot of ways, business-wise, which are some longer stories, but it's a huge part of my faith journey.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up when I was younger, I felt like, you have all your friends and you're going into high school with a base and a foundation and you're excited, and then all that kind of gets ripped out from underneath you. The two things that my dad told me, or one thing that my dad told me was, one day this will have affected who you marry. And I didn't know how that would play out. And it's funny how that played out intimately to be how I found my wife, Jenna. But also I didn't have the foresight to see that growing up, all my Zionsville friends went to IU. And then I went to West Lafayette, and your high school friends, your best friends in the world.
Right.
And they all went to Purdue. And so I stayed in touch with them because they're your high school buddies. And then I got to reconnect with all my IU friends. So looking back on it, I certainly would never change it. I couldn't fathom saying that then. But
yeah.
Also moving up there, looking for new friends and trying to fit in, I found an organization called Young Life,
Mm-hmm.
which not only changed my faith forever, but is something I'm intimately involved with to this day. Right before I came here, we got together at 7 o'clock this morning, had an all-day thing. So
that's awesome.
That move affected my life intimately. That move also put my father more on an entrepreneurial journey in his life, which ended up being how I started my entrepreneurial journey. I thought I wanted to go to med school. For me, it was do this. It's going to stink, but do this.
Yeah.
And here's the job you'll get. Here's the amount of money you'll make, and here's the people you'll help. But that really wasn't me. I had that entrepreneurial bug like my father and like his father did. And I wanted to go on that Arbuckle generational path of my grandpa breaking the mold and then my father doing it and then me having the opportunity to do it. And this, my father and I do a lot of things together. Our family's very close.
Yeah.
The move probably had a lot to do with that. I have 3 younger sisters. So my focus right now is my family, my wife Jenna, my 3-year-old son Grant. We've got another boy coming in July.
It is a boy.
Which is wild. It is a boy.
You didn't tell me that. Yeah, that's awesome.
3 younger sisters to 2 sons. It's just yikes. So I don't have
great.
gray hair
that's
yet.
Awesome, man.
But
you'll have plenty of it in a few years.
It's coming. I feel it. So focusing on my family for sure. Right now we're owning and operating 4 different entities with a new one, the podcast I just kind of told you a little bit about, with that being the newest. And so I kind of have my foundational opportunities to build, which is what I love and want to do. And so focus on family, which also is 8 nephews and nieces now in 3.5 years. Once our son comes, it'll be 9 in about 3.5 years.
That's awesome.
Which is just wild.
Yeah.
Christmases
Big
are
family.
a little different for the Arbuckle family now.
Yeah.
But being really purposeful on my time with my family, like I've said, with my businesses, like I said, but then within our community.
Yeah.
I've said this a lot. I say a lot of the same things over and over again, but I'm 37 and I'm not going anywhere. This is home. If I'm intentional for the next 30 years on bringing value to our community, I think by then I can do something. Yeah. I'm very passionate about that. I'm trying to be very connected in the entrepreneurial, either whether it's on the ministry side or business side here in the city, connecting with people. You know me and my dad.
Yeah.
That's maybe one of our biggest problems is our need and desire to connect.
Yeah.
Which puts me out of the house a lot more than the wife would like. But focusing on the businesses and being very purposeful about getting involved with the community. And
Yeah.
for me, that's with Young Life and with hopefully on school safety side one day if that works out. But I think that's who I am.
That's awesome. How do you go about structuring your time as an entrepreneur with 4 businesses, a 5th one on the way? It's kind of like talking about a child. Got 4 children and another one on the way.
That's true. I kind of got 2 newborns
Yeah.
right now. Yeah.
And then having, your family time
Yep.
with Jenna and Grant, and have you guys picked a name for the new little one?
We haven't.
Okay.
That is, we are a great team.
Yeah.
But we are not on the same page when it comes
names
to
are
names.
hard.
It's been
Alexa did
brutal.
not have her name until 4 days after she was born.
Uh,
They like came to us. They're like, you guys really shouldn't leave the hospital before you name your child. We're like, fine.
We're narrowing it down. We're trying. So
Yeah.
not yet. But
Yeah.
that's a really, really good question.
Right. Because then you have Young Life too, and you have given back to the community. So how do you structure your time to make sure that you're giving each and every one of those the time that they need, as well as the time that, or not giving too much time to work too?
Yeah, I needed help with that. I mean, the 2 newest businesses, not counting the third coming, prior to those, so 5, 6, 7 years ago, I got overstressed, overworked. Anxiety came into my life, which is not something I ever had. Didn't even understand it until I had it.
Yeah.
And I had way less on my plate, way less. And now I have more than ever. And I'm able to do that with some help of some mentors in my life, which has been a huge purposeful pivot for me of taking advantage of the people in my life. There's a gentleman named Sean Dill. He's actually here in the community. He owns the Black Diamond Club.
Okay. Yeah.
And he introduced me to a man named David Meltzer. He's a monster of a human being. Dave helped me with that mentorship side. He asked me for some of the foundations in my life, and one of them was my faith, and the other was I've been blessed to have certain people around me in my life, like my father and my father's friends, just people in the community. And then he just said, well, what are you doing about that? I was like, oh, nothing. And so it wasn't too long after that I met a man named Rick Alvis, who is the CEO of the Wheeler Mission downtown for 33 years. We just happened to sit next to each other on a plane. And before we got off, I just said, Rick, can I have 30 minutes of your time a month?
Yeah.
And so being purposeful in doing that, I can learn.
That's so cool.
People write books, or people that are successful, people spend their whole life and then write a book about it. We can't spend 7 hours downloading all that information.
Right.
So taking advantage of people in my life. And so between Sean and Dave, one of the things they taught me was being what they call being captain of your calendar. And so Dave taught me the power of non-negotiables in your life. So your health has to be number one, right? Because if you're not around, it doesn't matter. Family, and whatever else that might be. And bringing all of that into my calendar.
Yeah.
And, obviously everyone uses a calendar, but being purposeful on communicating with family, communicating with friends, the work I get paid to do, the work I don't get paid to do, the things I want to do. I'm very, very purposeful on that. I mean, I maybe have 19 calendars, I think, and including family calendars.
I'm trying to think how many I have now. I got okay, 7 or 8 now. Yeah, I got to keep it to that. I don't want any more. I don't want any more calendars.
I don't want any more of them. But I have to do that and then audit that and look back and go, okay, well, what did I have on the calendar that I didn't do?
Yeah.
I didn't do that because I'm not being disciplined, being lazy, or is it because I don't actually value that as much as I think I do? That's really the only way I can do that right now to keep everything.
Do you block out certain times for business, for family? Yeah.
Everything
got its own
from
block.
gym to family to time with my son to absolutely everything.
Yeah.
I try to, at least. And I'm only maybe 2 years into this journey and still working to do a better job of it for sure. But there are a lot of principles that you learn throughout that. And Dave, another one that he taught me was he's like, call your mom every day for a minute. And then on Saturday, you don't feel obligated to be like, all right, well, I need to go to mom's house and spend an hour there. Like,
right.
And your relationships are better. And so it helps you focus on relationships as well. Because, when we get this busy, that's really easy to fall off. And we talked about earlier, I'm a glutton for relationships and connecting. It's a huge passion of mine. And you don't want to have people fall off in your life as you bring new people in.
Right. Yeah. No, and I found that hard. I think going into the entrepreneur side, that became easier because you especially at first, you have more time,
Right.
And then it's like, okay, well, what do I do with my time to stay productive? I don't want to just sit on the couch.
Right.
I want to work out 3 hours a day, but, I probably shouldn't be because I need to be doing things that provide for my family.
What great lessons there, right?
But, like when I was in corporate sales, it was hard to have. I didn't have relationships. Even my oldest, closest friends, I'd hardly talk to because, as much as I kind of wanted to, I didn't value it as much because I only valued time that was making me money.
Right.
Or being with family, right? But even that took kind of a back seat to making money. And I think getting out of that and then going, okay, money's not going to be there for a while. It's growing these businesses, right? You're investing into them. You're only taking what you have to pay your bills.
Right.
And okay, the money's not going to be there for a while. So, but I can free up my time. Like I can do the things I want to do with my time and still have a structured day. I think we also get caught up too in sometimes being too disciplined in our calendars, but it's important to have guidelines to go by. But it's also knowing that, okay, if I mess it up this day, I do have grace. Like some days just don't go according to plan.
Yeah, you can't take yourself too seriously at the end of the day. And certainly can't let your ego get in the way.
That's tough.
That's a daily battle, right?
Oh, yeah.
Whether that's just trying to be patient or trying to be in control or wearing too many hats. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you meet your wife, Jenna?
I love our story. So we both went to high school in West Lafayette, although I went to Harrison, she went to West Side. I don't remember how many groomsmen of mine or bridesmaids of hers at our wedding that we knew previous to us ever meeting.
Okay.
So somehow we never met in high school. She even went down to IU. We never met down there. My favorite part of the story is that she knew who I was in high school. She doesn't like that.
That's
part.
how Monica was. Yeah, she knew who I was. I just didn't know who she was.
That's right. We talked about that.
Yeah.
We love that part secretly. Let's make sure we say it on the podcast.
Of course, right. Make that public to everybody.
And then later on in life, much later in life, I think I was 28, maybe, when we met. And one of my sisters was living with me at the time and wanted to get on Match.com and try it out. And so I said, okay. And I found Jenna right away. Right after we messaged her, right after we messaged each other, we both called the same person within like 10 minutes of each other. Yeah. And so that safety net was there of how do we not know each other? I mean, I can't tell you how many of my friends said, yeah, you remember Jenna.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Never met her.
Yeah, you do. And then a lot of people are like, oh, man, you guys are going to get married.
Yeah.
So we met when we were ready to. We both got some phases of our life out of the way.
Yeah, right timing.
Yep, right timing. My sister actually found her husband the same time.
Oh, really?
They got married not too long after us. I met Jenna on June 22nd and proposed to her on October 16th.
That was quick.
Yikes. Yeah, after 2 5-year relationships in my life. So
yeah.
I mean, when you know. That's in my life, that's very real. So
I think you're right. Yeah. I mean, really, when you do find the right person, you know it, know, and it's just us getting in our own way.
The older I get, whether it's being a husband or a father or just getting older, so many of like cliche things are true. We just don't have the right like perspective or lens to understand how true those things are.
What do you think it takes to have that lens or to change that lens?
Man,
or maybe it's removing the lens. I don't know.
That's a great question. I mean, perspective is so important. I mean, my dad used to say that reasonable people, equally informed, seldom disagree. And I used to believe in that. However, now, whether it's politics or cultural things, that just seems wild. So it's a really, really good question. Last year was the first year of my life that I wanted to have a word for myself, that was the theme for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Last year it was unapologetic.
Okay.
A lot of that had to do with pursuing. Certainly had, when you get into the world of fundraising, that's a different monster too, and talking about your faith. So
Yeah.
some things happened that I wanted to be unapologetic about. This year it's perspective, because I love that word,
Mm-hmm.
and it shapes everything,
Yeah.
absolutely everything. So your question, like, I don't know the answer to that, but I am deep into it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I have a passion for public speaking, and I have some opportunities coming up to do some speaking, and I know that it's going to be a perspective conversation, and I've got some of it developed. I'm going to call it Look Up,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. I mean,
I like that.
on the most basic of things, like we look up into the heavens and the infinite universe. We're on a rock going 50,000 miles an hour through infinity. You love a girl and a human being comes out. Like,
Yeah.
all these things that are just normal that aren't. So I'm trying to develop that. I think getting your ego out of the way is a huge part of perspective.
Mm-hmm.
My dad also told me, there are 4 types of people in this world, and the worst kind is the people that don't know that they don't know. And I want to be someone that knows that I don't know.
Right.
So
I think that's important, and I think that's
so too.
reading Proverbs. You learn that. Right.
Yeah.
You learn that the wisdom. We don't have wisdom. We pray for wisdom.
That's so true.
And we pray for godly wisdom, not human wisdom.
Agreed.
Worldly wisdom is a lot different then, because worldly wisdom is going to go tell you how, no, sacrifice that family time, get ahead in life. It's going to tell you to go buy that yacht and that fancy Rolex, which those things aren't bad.
That's exactly right.
If it can be done, without sacrificing the relationships, the family, and I feel like we, over the last, probably 40, 50 years, right? Parents have done that. And
Yeah.
I said, I was talking to, was it Scott maybe about this? We were talking about how the push to provide for family became greed at a certain point.
Yeah.
You get past providing for that family. And it's not that it's a bad thing to keep growing, but at a certain point it's time to go, okay, now I need to give back time to my family. I can provide for them now. Now I need to give time back to them.
Yeah, that's fair.
This can keep growing, but I need to be able to, it's got to be able to keep growing, with a little less time, put more of that back to the family.
Yeah, and that's perspective, and like the lens that you're looking through will define that.
Mm-hmm.
Are you just looking for generational wealth and just pursuing that, and don't have that lens of your family? I think one of the most important lenses to have is, again, this comes from Dave Meltzer, a perspective of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a gratitude challenge that is so simple and so literally mindset and life changing, of every morning, every night, end your night. And, we do that with prayer already to a degree, but
Mm-hmm.
just having a perspective of gratitude is a big deal. Like I said, I'm diving deep into the perspective things. And
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite perspectives is the perspective of Peter. Like when Peter steps out onto the water with Jesus, like the God of the universe, he's standing on water with him. And in that moment, he was amazed, yet super quick. He was doing it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he started to doubt, think about, and then he falls in. Like, he couldn't keep that perspective in that moment, or the perspective of when you go to church camp, or you come back from a workshop and you're just on fire.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, you're just not.
Squelched again, right?
It's so, like, I almost need to have a perspective of focusing on perspective. And again, I'm diving deep into it. I love it a lot. Like, same things with, like, everyone knows what New York City looks like. If you've never been there, you know what's there. You know what it looks like. Paris or Rome, you see pictures. But until you go there, same like until you're a father, until you're a husband, like you can't know. And so that perspective of knowing that other people are looking through different lenses is so powerful. Again, politics and culture right now, like, could we be further apart? And it's wild, but
it's all perspective.
So difficult to look through someone else's lens. Yeah.
Well, and where they come from and where they started, right? And that was something I started thinking about is, everybody starts at a different place, comes from a different background, right? And, people on a different side of the spectrum, they grew up differently. They had different influences in their lives. And it does mold you. It's amazing how one little thing in your life, it could be as easy as a teacher calling you fat, or somebody you respect telling you you're a shithead, or something like that. Be something, one comment from somebody you respect or you just even look at as an adult when you're a child could shift the trajectory of your life.
And they can be so meaningless and things that people don't remember.
Right.
I just had a meeting with a kid that is, one of those human beings that if you can invest in a human being, I'd invest in this young kid. His name's Reese. He's an incredible kid. He was telling me how one of the first times we met officially, and he went to shake my hand, he knocked over a glass of water.
Oh, no.
And he was saying how often he's thought about it. He couldn't sleep that night. And when he told me about it, I was like, I don't remember that.
That's funny.
But you're right. It's incredible, the little things that will stick in your mind. This is a really weird example, but I can remember being in like second grade and going up a slide, like at playground or something, and jumping off and flapping my arms like a bird, trying to be funny. Yeah. And everyone's like, that. They just made fun of me. Like, that was stupid, trying too hard. How dumb and not important, but that's ingrained in my brain. Yeah. That's so stupid.
We all have those moments,
right?
Yeah.
And everyone has a different one, and it's so hard to wear someone else's shoes, but you just have to at least try.
And that's a good metaphor for you becoming an entrepreneur. Jumping off the top of a slide and flapping your wings, trying to fly.
Another slide story in my life that I actually don't remember.
Oh man, you and slides.
I know.
Yeah.
My father and I were going down a slide when I was a kid, and my shoelace got caught, and we both fell over this like 10-foot slide. So like that's a father memory that I don't remember, but
that's great.
Anyway,
yeah. So when you see shoelaces and slides now, you just stay away from your dad. Yeah.
My son's got to wear Velcro shoes only.
So how does being a father or how does that shift your perspective for life?
I think for me it was the seriousness of life. We get one chance to do this. The seriousness of looking back and what my family provided me and all the blessings and things I probably take for granted. I think it was a bit of a serious mindset shift of the reality of the responsibility that you now have. And it was always, I want to be successful, I want to do these things, but now it's the reality of that. I think that would be the biggest thing. I struggled for a long time. I mean, just being unapologetic, I always felt like I was going to do something big. I didn't know exactly what that meant, but genuinely through prayer and just through life and maybe too much ego, I just felt like I was going to do something big. And call it 4 years ago or so, I thought maybe I'm actually not meant to have a huge successful business or have multiple businesses. Maybe I was just meant to be a great father and husband. And although for a longer story, I don't think that's the case. I think I have a bigger purpose. But that was a serious moment of, well, that's just as important. Yeah. And so it's just the seriousness of it, as you get into things, as you go grow older and get into life, things that you want to do, once you're in it, the reality of it should be ground shifting, I think.
Yeah. I think becoming a father, to become an intentional father and be the father you want to be to your child, it requires you to die to yourself, right? Which helps that ego go away. And because I've had that same feeling, like, oh man, I was meant to do something big. So like, am I doing that in my businesses? Am I doing that, and then, but yeah, when you shift that focus and go take it off yourself and put it onto somebody else, it's like that may be just that big thing you were talking about, but the world maybe doesn't view it as a big thing, right. And I think that's the thing too, is we get preached to about, we can fulfill our dreams and we can do whatever we want to do and yada, 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 that the world preaches. And then the world preaches what success looks like from a worldly view, not what it looks like from a familial view or a spiritual view.
For sure.
So being a father is big, and that is a big thing. And I feel like even if your businesses are small, they can have a big impact, because what happens if you just keep, you maybe help one person find out who they are, or find Christ, or
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the ego's got to get out of the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ego as far as like what that effect will be or what your purpose is. But the intentional word, is so important. You're much farther along than I am with kids, and I'm
not so much with
it.
development though, Kurt. Let's be real.
That's fair. We all know that.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's those moments of like going through potty training and like just being intentional about the moments that he has.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had just such an incredible special moment with him. We did swim lessons when he was a kid, like a baby, but it's been a while, and so it's important to my wife that make sure he's good at swimming, and so we just started him up at the Y.
Cool.
And the first two I didn't get to go, and he cried before it even started, and cried the entire time.
Really?
Like he has this thing about getting water in his eyes and he just freaks out.
Wiley's the same way with getting water in his ears.
There you go. He's not the manliest kid at the moment. Now he's only 3, but
oh man, yeah, they're just little boys.
Right.
Yeah.
He's starting to get a bit more wild, but he, so when it was this past week when I finally got to go to the first one, and so for me it was like, okay, this is an opportunity to be intentional about how do I prepare him for this?
Yeah. Something
so silly that he's terrified of. We were in the car on the way, and I had been pep talking him the whole day. He's like, I don't want to go. I'm not going. Talking to him all day. It's okay, buddy. All these things. So little steps. It's like, well, let's get him to dress.
Yeah.
And then it was, well, let's get him in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's talk to him in the car. And we were in the car, and he said something we had never heard before, and we just looked at each other. Our hearts just melted. He goes, Dad, I'm nervous. Never heard him say that word before. I was like, why,
man.
buddy? He goes, I don't want to go swimming. I was like, oh. And so then it was being intentional when we got there.
Yeah.
And so all the kids are lining up, getting ready for them to come take him to the part of the pool. And I'm just down in his face. One thing I heard sometime, and I can't remember who I heard it from, maybe Jordan Peterson, about getting down and talking eye level to your kid at all times.
Shifting your level to theirs.
Yeah.
So that you don't, you're able to empathize with them more.
Right. And it's not this empowering. Yeah, exactly. And so just talking to him like, hey, buddy, it's okay, this. And he like just repeating, trying to get him pumped. And he had this moment where he just like looked at me, smiled, and just grabbed my face. And I could just tell he was like, okay, Dad, we're good.
I got it.
And he killed it at swimming.
Oh, I love it.
My wife loved it and hated it. She's like, the dad effect.
Right.
So that was an opportunity for me to be
the dad effect. That is a real thing.
Yeah.
You know, that we were dealing with that this morning with eating eggs for breakfast before our cereal. Yeah. So.
Yeah. But trying to be intentional, because that moment could have just been, because I was a little stressed about it all day because I don't want him to be upset, not like it, and it's just a burden on everyone. But it's like, let's try to be intentional on. Not that I know what I'm doing, because 90% of the time I don't.
We're all figuring it out.
Which is another entrepreneurial thing, right? People don't know that. When I speak to those kids up at Purdue, that's one of my favorite things to talk about. Relationship capital is one of my favorite things, but also most successful people I know have imposter syndrome. You know, of people. You look at a heart surgeon or a politician, maybe not now these days, but you just think they've got everything wrapped up. They're super smart. They got it figured out. They're good financially at home, and that's not reality. At the end of the day, doesn't matter what your job is, you probably come home and want to just have a pizza and watch Netflix like everybody else. So I don't remember where I was going with that, but
well, I feel like, you know, entrepreneurship really forces you to figure yourself out. Yeah. Whereas when you're, you know, a surgeon, for example, right? Like they are so busy as soon as they start school, right? Like they are studying. They don't ever have time to think about themselves, you know. And so they get through med school, they get through residency. Thank you, and then they go right into full-time career, and then through all that they accumulate a family, kids, houses, cars, you know. And it's like, you know, and I'm not just picking on surgeons here. This goes for a lot of different careers, but you know, they get down the road and it's like, oh, who am I? Like, I've been doing all this, and they never get to figure out those ups and downs of being a husband or ups and downs of being a father, because they're working a lot. And I feel like entrepreneurship really forces you, because you go through those ups and downs like on an hourly basis.
All the time. All the time.
Yeah, it's like you've got, and the other thing is, as an entrepreneur, you have the time to figure it out, and you also have the time to go into your own head too.
Yeah.
So you have to really get good with controlling your emotions and being disciplined with your thoughts and keeping yourself on task, doing things you don't want to do necessarily all the time. Same goes for sales. Sales is kind of a similar beast in that sense, but I think sales is what kind of pushed me into entrepreneurship, because typically that's kind of what sales is most of the time.
Were the clothes, was that your first kind of like entrepreneurial kind of endeavor, or is there something before?
No, that probably pushed me more to it. I'll tell you what really soured me on working for somebody else or working for the man, right?
Yeah.
The first company I was with, and I'm still friends with some of these people there, but it was a cell phone sales company. That's where met some of my lifelong friends, and that company, leadership changed, and at first I was on the side of I was loved by the leadership, and then that changed, right? And there were some with the shifts in leadership, I felt like a lot of people were brought in and just kind of put into positions of power, and I had felt like I had earned it. I was the top salesman in a 4-state market. I was number 30 in the nation and climbing that. And so through that, I basically got to the point where my career was pretty much capped as a team lead. And I wanted to own my own market. I wanted to be a regional director one day. And I felt like at that point, I wasn't willing to play the politics that it was going to take with the leadership in play in order to get to that point. Yeah. And so I knew that my future was controlled by somebody else. And I also don't like politics, right? And I mean this from a not from a political,
right. But
standpoint.
Playing a game.
But playing a game,
yeah.
and kind of schmoozing and boozing just to get ahead. I'm not that way. And
disingenuine.
Yeah. No, I want to be genuine in everything I do. And if I don't like you, I'm going to tell you I don't like you.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean sometimes I don't like people as, professionally, but I like them on a social level, too. But I just don't want to do things. I don't want to be disingenuous. So when I left that company, and that was sales, right? So it was pretty much 100% commission. You get out as much as you put in, and that I think is kind of what gave me that initial entrepreneurial bug of, I'm only getting out what I put into it, right? So why not own my own thing, and do the same thing? And then I went to Tom James, and I loved working with that company. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. I had great people that kind of were willing to take me under their wings and teach me as well. I was very good friends with the CEO of Tom James. Went to high school with some of his kids as well, and so got to have great conversations with him on a monthly basis. Set monthly meetings with him, and it was really cool that he took the time to do that. And essentially, what you're doing in that business is it's still 100% commission. You're building your business kind of your way. You get out of it, what you put into it. And they give you some guidelines. They give you they give you a lot of training, which is really good. And my dream was to I want to figure all that out. I want to do it myself. And, then I came across this opportunity to partner with the CEO of our insurance company and open up the Indiana market, and then basically help kind of expand the company nationwide and try to figure these processes out. And I'm like, that's exactly what I've been dreaming about. Didn't think it was necessarily going to be in insurance, but what I think is so cool, and I think after kind of having some of my future controlled by that first company, Tom James, I did very well, for myself there. And coming into the insurance business, I'm like, I love sales, and sales has done great things for me, but I don't want to have to keep working this hard in this particular thing my whole life, because to grow that business, you have to continue working at the same level and almost have to continue getting producing at a higher level, right? Because now it's not just I've got to maintain the current book of business I have, but now I've got to keep reselling and keep adding clients to this and I'm competitive. So, and when you have people pushing you to, hey, let's get to the next level, it's like, oh, I want to keep up. I want to keep, keep growing. But all of my focus went into that. It couldn't go to my family. Right. I literally was like 100% focused. I'd focus about 10% on my health and fitness, I'd eat right and I'd get up and train for an hour every morning before I went into the office. But I wasn't putting the amount of training in that I am now. I love training, and it's probably a unhealthy habit at a certain point, or unhealthy hobby at a certain point, but I love it. And, but I was only able to give, maybe 10% to that. And then I was giving like as much as I could to the business. And then I'd get home and I'm tapped.
Yeah. You lost your non-negotiables.
Yeah. I maybe had 5% to give to my family and they deserve way more than that, And so I wanted to design, I didn't want to, have a business that was my lifestyle, and for some people they want that. And you know what I would say, when you're single, pour into that.
Agreed.
And Tom James is a great lifestyle, but it wasn't necessarily the lifestyle I want. I'm kind of I want to be a woods hermit, right? Like just, I want to meet with people during the day and then go retreat to my cabin in the woods and read a book and drink my coffee and, be left alone. And, so instead of living that lifestyle, I wanted to build a life that fed my lifestyle, right? I didn't want my business to have to be my business and my life to have to be my life. I wanted it to all kind of be one thing. And I think that's what's so cool about what we're doing now is literally everything we got going on. Insurance is just doing this, just having conversations, We became friends, and the insurance, you needed insurance at the time. It just happened to work out perfectly and you become a client, right? And that's what I think is so cool about that business. It's literally just hanging out with people, building relationships.
That is a relationship-based business.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then the gym is just what I love, right? It's what I love doing every day. And so, that was always a non-negotiable for me. Is I'm training minimum of an hour a day, and usually 2, and there's times where 3. But I'm having to try to make sure I also have energy to do other things, right? Sure. But yeah, so I feel like I've always kind of been on that journey. I've always wanted to do my own thing, right? And actually what led me into sales originally was trying to buy a gym 12 years ago. So I had already started my own strength and conditioning company. So I would say I was even an entrepreneur before I knew it, because that's probably what I was going after, So, that was a long-winded answer to what your question, but
it was a good one.
No, well, thanks. Thanks. Yeah. So, Kurt, tell us more about these businesses that you have. And dive into those a little bit.
Sure. So the core of what we do is a company called KD Global Solutions. We're an audio-video integration company. So what we do is we handle mostly audio-video. We certainly do networking, security as well, mostly in the retail restaurant world on the commercial side of audio. Growing up, my father was a VP of Bose for North America. Yeah. And
I think the story, by the way, of how he started this company is so freaking cool.
Oh, it's great, and it speaks to relationships. And, it speaks to not burning bridges, and so we, growing up, my father's VP of Bose, and Abercrombie and Fitch was one of, back in the 90s, 2000s, right?
You walk in and you get hit with that wall of cologne,
scent and audio, but they were the giant, not only in the retail world, but from a audio video standard. The audio video was a huge part of their brand. And my dad moved on to do other things in life, and it came to a point where Abercrombie was going international. And my dad basically brokered a deal with Bose Domestic so that we could become a dealer. In return, Abercrombie would use Bose, and Bose would allow us to sell in all countries around the world, which was very unique at that time. So my dad brokered that incredible opportunity together, and right out of school, all of a sudden, we were an audio-video integration company. But for the first 2 years, all we did was Abercrombie and Fitch and their international growth. So I spent a little over 4 years of my life traveling 2 to 3 weeks a month internationally, building. What we wanted to do is we wanted to take the Bose model, which was a model of credibility and having a global network of people, so that you were always there, quicker, cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted to build that internationally. And so we used Abercrombie's growth to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And about 2 years in, we understood that, we had our partner Dean, who's had project management at Bose at the time. All of a sudden we had a machine that, well, why don't we just take this to the U.S. now?
Yeah.
And so I think Hooters nationally was our second customer. And so we mostly handle.
Did you do scent in there too?
We did not do scent in Hooters. Scent's a pretty cool story, although a longer one. But that's something that the commercial scent is something that's another company we have called One Global, One Global DS, and we focus on where Katie's more of the systems side, the content side, the audio content, the digital signage content, and the scent and those kind of things. Mm-hmm. So those are two, and those have been the core of what we've done for a long time. And what I didn't realize is that we weren't just building an AV integration company. We're actually building a project management and scalability machine. So the two opportunities right now would be Arbuckle Pringle Robotics, which is in the world of autonomous robots. You said something earlier, insurance. Like you would have never thought you'd get an insurance. Like, my son thinks I sell robots, and
it's pretty cool. It sounds pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. It just still feels and sounds a little weird. But it's something that, there's a company called Pringle Robotics that we've partnered with. And from a labor need, labor shortage, and then from a customer experience and unique opportunity side of things, it's an incredible opportunity for us to jump into. It's an opportunity to be early in something that's coming, whether people like it or not.
You mean the beginning of the end of humanity?
The beginning of the end, man. It's coming.
Yeah. All those
now
robots are going to kill us all.
AI will make them do it, I guess. It's a real Terminator situation coming.
Here we go.
I got 2 in my house. I'm just waiting for them to wake up and get me in the
middle of the night. The eyes turn red in the middle of the night.
That's not supposed to happen. So the world of autonomous robotics, which is it's every vertical, every market, from autonomous floor cleaning to food delivery to disinfectant hospitals to delivering medical devices, medicine, supporting nurses to, any sort of delivery you can back a house from. It's pretty wild. And it's not replacing jobs. It's one of the first questions we ever get. And that was very important to us, that this is, if a nurse, for example, we were just at a situation where in order to deliver 5 trays of food to 5 patients was a 19-minute walk there and back for a nurse. And you take the ability for a robot to take the food from the kitchen to the rooms. Now you do that 3 times a day, and if they're each responsible for 15, you do the math. That's hours a day that now are with the patients. So they're not taking their jobs away. It's
it's
right
allowing
now
them to do their jobs more efficiently
and do it better.
Yeah.
Same with waitresses, which a steakhouse maybe is not the best environment for a robot, but a bowling alley or a pizza place, those kind of restaurants, limited service is great. So that's fun. It's opened up a lot of doors, airports and stadiums as well. And then the other company at the moment is a company called CK2 Technologies, and it's in the world of weapons detection, in the world of frictionless screening.
I think that may be one of my favorite companies that you have right now.
It's my favorite right now. It's simple, and the customers we get to work with are worldwide recognized venues, and it's like I said, it's simple, but at the same time, it's extremely serious. And so, we need metal detectors. That technology hasn't really changed in 40 plus years since the fax machine was invented. And
oh Jesus, has it been that long? It's
detecting metal, right? Some of them now will say, well, the alert is high, medium, or low. Okay, well, good advancement there.
So it's a belt buckle, a knife, or gun, right? Like high, medium, low. Right. There you go.
And so it's the world where you walk through. And you don't take anything out of your pockets. You don't have to stop. You just fly through frictionless screening. So that is another opportunity, a relationship we've built with a company called Extract One, based out of Canada, leading the industry. It's really them and one other competitor in this world. So again, another unique opportunity for us because of relationship capital. And one thing I say all the time, I might have already said, is that once you can establish credibility, people don't care how much you know. They want to know how much you care.
Right.
And so, we've been able to establish some credibility, and we hire the people that know, and we're really good at the care part.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets us in unique opportunities. And so, yeah, that the frictionless screening is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Changing the way people enter venues, stadiums, is something that is the first growth of it.
Mm-hmm.
Second is going to be in everyday buildings. I mean, I think there's going to be, regardless of your stance on weapons, it does not matter.
Mm-hmm.
But there'll be a day that, we'll think, well, can you imagine you used to just be able to take a gun into a movie theater? But you can't put a metal detector in a movie theater right now.
Yeah.
You don't want to feel like you're going into jail, and don't have staff there to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, again, it's a unique opportunity that's changing the landscape of a lot of the customer experiences, and allows us to partner and be a part of some major stadiums and organizations. That's a lot of
really
fun.
Cool.
And again, that's at the beginning, at the infancy stage, and it's already taking off. So I'm very passionate about that one, and very excited for the future of that.
Is that going to be in schools as well?
I sure hope so.
Okay.
Schools brings the challenge of backpacks. So when you have laptops and cell phones and iPads and whatever they may be, binders even, I mean, the technology behind that is crazy. So put it this way, the reason we got into this opportunity was our belief that one day we can change the safety in our schools.
Yeah.
And so right now the focus is on small cluttered environments like stadiums and venues and places like that. But there's no doubt that that would be my passion behind it.
Yeah. That's really cool, man.
Did I name them all? I think so.
Is that
Arbuckle, Robotics, and CK2 Technology.
Yeah.
Those are my primary focus at the time.
Yeah.
At this moment.
Well, and what I think so cool about that is with KD1, you guys kind of laid a baseline. You gave yourselves, I mean, you kind of have to, it's like a pyramid, right? You got to have that baseline built business, and then you can start diving into the passion projects and the riskier plays and all that. But you got to have that baseline business that can kind of, I don't want to say support it all, but support you as you're trying to do these other ventures.
Yeah, I thought I had pigeonholed myself into an AV guy, which, I mean, again, I'm not the guy that knows. That's not me.
You're the guy who cares.
That's right.
Yeah.
See, you listen.
Yeah.
That's good.
It'll be a good political sell for you, if you ever decide to run for office and anything.
Might be my tagline.
Yeah, there you go.
Unfortunately, I think I would love to run for office one day. I don't know that I'll allow myself to do it.
Yeah.
Got a lot of friends that tell me the same. Anyway, fast forward 30 years, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, there we go.
Maybe we'll do it together.
Yeah, they're perfect. Yeah, good team.
Stay close to Scott as he takes
Yeah,
over.
there we go. Yeah.
I like Scott and John Dart. Those are good people.
Scott's a good guy.
I don't know what I was saying now. I thought I had pigeoned myself into an AV company, when the reality it was learning how to work with worldwide recognized brands, meeting expectations, creating customer experiences, bringing value. But we had created a machine that could really do anything and bring anything to market.
So you essentially used that kind of scaling model. Yeah. You're using that with all these businesses.
For sure.
That's cool.
We are a very small company, yet at the end of the day, we are competing. Our two biggest competitors in a lot of the national accounts or RFPs we go through have more than 2,500 employees. I mean, at KD, we're less than 10.
Yeah.
And we're able to win major projects because of the machine that we built in a unique way with low overhead and focusing on, if you've got somebody everywhere, you're quicker, you're cheaper, you're better.
Yeah.
And when that one person is doing the installation for you, an install in the beginning of a sale is maybe 5% of a relationship, where your goal is to be with them for the next 20 years.
Right.
And you started doing an audio system, but then you want digital signage, and then you want scent, or then you want the point of sale, you want the CCTV, so you want to be sticky and grow.
Yeah.
And so having that relationship focus, even at the on-site, on the ground level, has really been key to our success. There's no doubt about that.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What about this podcast business? Tell us more about that.
It's unique. It's brand new. Again, it kind of comes through David Meltzer and Sean Dill are working to license a podcast brand to put in major stadiums across the country. And so I'll be responsible for the technology side of it.
Oh, that's cool.
And, stadiums are a huge part of the businesses we're going after right now, and relationships we're building. So it's natural, it makes sense. And any opportunity you get to do anything with a man like David Meltzer, you jump in and do everything you possibly can.
The Midas touch.
he's the epitome, right? He's the epitome of relationship engagement and relationship capital. And
tell us how you met Dave.
I met Dave. I met Dave through Sean Dill. It's a longer story. We ended up randomly meeting Sean because he was talking about scent and how the Ritz-Carlton was one of the first in the industry to present their own scent in the lobby, and that was the next level of customer experience. And Sean has a massive coaching business called the Black Diamond Club, and he was speaking on stage, and my father just happened to be there and thought, like, we do scent? And then all of a sudden it was Sean Dill that lives in Westfield. It goes to Bridgewater, where we go. And then all of a sudden it's like, how do we not know each other? And then we connected and bonded over so many things, started a scent program together. And then pretty quick after it was, Sean said, hey, you need to meet David Meltzer. And that meant going to a masterminds, which was a 3-day event on a private island in BVI that was in the heart of COVID with like a massive amount of money to go be a part of this. Yeah. And
is this like the Glass Onion Island? You ever seen that?
No, I haven't seen that, but we went by Epstein's Island.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. We're going by, and the driver of the boat casually is like, well, there you go. There's Little St. James. Photo op. There's Epstein. Like,
yeah.
That was bizarre.
Oh, man.
But so obviously I went and went with my father. That's why I took a leap of faith, and that was coming off a very interesting time in my life where I lost one of my best friends in the world, my 97-year-old grandmother, who I would see 3, 4, 5 days a week for the past 10 years of my life. And I kind of had a moment where, I told you unapologetic was my word, and that's because I had a moment with her where I could tell that she said goodbye. And I told my wife, I even started crying in the car. And COVID killed retail and restaurant 80%. So I was also going through that. And so the wife was like, okay, calm down. She's 97. Yeah. I've been worried that she's going to pass away for 30 years.
It's a long life. 97 years old. It's a long life lived.
Long life. I just realized today she'd be 100 this year, which is crazy. But a mother and a father love is one thing, but the love that she gave me was out of control. And that's actually impacted me a lot for my family, because she lost her husband and her only son very early, close to each other, and I was her only grandson, and so I took on all those love of her, and all that love that she had for them, and the responsibilities and the good and the bad, all landed on me. But anyway, I just had a moment where I just felt God was telling me, like, she just said goodbye, and she passed away that next morning, and I just kind of had a moment. I was like, okay, I'm going to start listening to these kind of things, and couple months later, I think 2 months later, is when Sean Dill came into our life and said, hey, just trust me on this David Meltzer thing. And we did. Yeah. And I could never have predicted what that would have done for me. The people in the Black Diamond Club that have become friends, business partners, mentors, and then to be a part of a network in a world like David Meltzer and his incredible team.
Pretty exciting.
Is extremely exciting. I'm so blessed. I'm extremely thankful. And I've learned more from them than I could have ever thought. Sean's got a coaching weekend going on right now, and every person in that room I'm jealous of, and I know that they're in the right space. Yeah. I mean, I did business going to school, networking, entrepreneurship stuff. We've all done that stuff, and I feel like I've just in the past 3 years, even though I was vice president of the Young Entrepreneurship Association down at IU, I felt like I had that down. But again, Dave taught me I'm not even getting mentored by anybody. What are you doing? So they've really helped me take that to the next level as well.
That's cool.
So I'm very, very thankful. But that's how I met Dave, on a private island in the BVI, and it was just over the top.
That's awesome.
Emotional, overwhelming, and so many of the people that were on that island with us are extremely dear friends of mine to this day. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Awesome.
Who have been the most influential couple of people on your development? As a man, as a father, businessman, whatever you want to take that.
There's no doubt it starts with my grandfather and my father, and most of that stuff was early in life with things, how you treat people, what I now know is perspective, but what they used to say is life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. But my development, especially going through the move, going
to West Lafayette.
To West Lafayette, that was big. Seeing what they were doing, working for themselves, and how they raised a family. There's no doubt that those two to start. How to win friends and influence people. Like, those are the principles that they gave me. And in high school, going into a new high school, I remember my dad and my grandpa telling me, just know everybody's names. What a simple concept, and be the most interested person, not the most interesting, and just caring about people, eye contact, all that little stuff. I attribute to my high school experience, which I couldn't have asked for anything better. So it certainly starts with my grandpa and my father. My grandma, I just talked about it. The amount of love and the relationship that we had is, again, you can't take anything away from a mother and father, especially when you're on this end of it. But that is extremely impactful to me and everything I do with my family and everything. And I would put those three people at the top of the list for sure. Now, there's no doubt that there's certainly books and individuals that have taught me a lot or come in and out of my life. And Sean Dill and David Meltzer right now would be those people in my life that they're helping me take so many principles that I knew, but it's like I was in elementary school still, and it was kind of like hey, here's the graduate school version of this. So I think that would be my best answer. Again, my father had surrounded me with incredible people. My best friend's father, Keith Cambrell, gentlemen like him, and people that I just looked up to. Random people that were in my dad's life. Most of them still to this day that I knew I wanted to be like. So it's a lot of people. But if I had to pick a few, I think those are the ones I'd pick.
What's one book you'd recommend to either new entrepreneurs or just men in general?
Connected to Goodness. Guess who's the author? Dave Meltzer.
Huh.
You want me to stop talking?
Sales plug there. There we go. You're welcome, Dave.
Yeah, I get a commission off that.
Okay, good.
He actually he's, as the man that he is, and incredibly busy, wealthy, successful, connected. I've never met anyone like him. If you ask him, he gives out his cell phone number. He'll give you a book at no cost. So that book has been the most influential one for me lately because
Connected to Goodness.
Because it brings a very weird aspect into the reality of life, being a better person, father, family, the non-negotiables, all these things I've kind of already talked about. It brings in a really weird word that is super off-putting, and for me was very off-putting for a long time, and that word is like manifestation. And when I think about manifesting something, I think of the book The Secret, and to me,
The Secret.
Do you remember that?
I'm trying to remember.
I'm butchering this, and I don't want to offend anyone's feelings, but I feel like it's kind of I want this, put it out there, I'm going to get it.
Right.
And that just comes off as wishy-washy, or when everyone in that book is a wealthy celebrity, like, okay, no crap. And so that's a big turnoff. But Dave puts it into a perspective of it's really about being gratitude and connected to goodness. For me and for you is our Christian faith.
Right.
And so that's what connected to goodness. To Dave, it's a bit more connected to the universe. Okay. And not having a scarcity mindset, but we live in a world of abundance. It's not a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
And so Dave brings some principles that actually, my faith journey was growing up Catholic, and so I had a relationship with God, but I didn't really have a relationship with Jesus. And then Young Life gave me a relationship with Jesus, and Dave brought me back to the Holy Spirit, which to me is the universe, is that. And that was huge. Another foundation I gave Dave was my faith. Yeah. And then he blew that up in my face too, which he has the power to do. But from a manifesting, it's not, I want a Lamborghini, it's going to come.
Right.
It's truly understanding what you do want, getting away from your ego, having that right perspective of lens, and that's just where your natural drive will go. And then again, for us, from a faith standpoint, and trusting in God and everything that we do there. But it mends all that together not in a wishy-washy or bizarre way, but in a real way. He tells his story. And certainly articulates it in very practical steps as well. So that book, again, this current time of my life, these things have been hugely impactful.
Yeah, that's really cool. The thought of manifestation, I think a lot of times people get wrong too, right? It's that I want a Lamborghini, and like I'm just gonna wish and wish and wish.
I mean, that's what I kind of thought.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you think of it as a materialistic thing, and I think it.
Correct. That's a good way to say it.
On a surface level, obviously, to a lot of people, that's what it is. The vision board and putting a car and house and all that. And I think you get away from that, you're gonna be rewarded with that if you've done the right things to serve others and to do good in the world. Here we go, sounding like lovey-dovey hippies, right? But
I mean, that's what it kind of feels like, right? When somebody tells you to do yoga or be a vegetarian, so many your reactions like, oh, okay, but I get it. I love yoga. Yoga's so good for you. But there's certain things that I kind of feel like maybe things that we innately know, are good for you or could be better for you, but it takes a mindset shift or an ego change that we don't want to do that affects that. I read a quote from Will Smith that I can't remember, but it was
before or after the slap.
Way before the slap. Man, what a bummer, right? I can remember talking about childhood memories. I can remember watching the finale of Fresh Prince.
Oh, great show.
I remember crying, and I remember my dad being like, "It's a show." Dude.
Yeah, you get attached to it though, man. You get attached to
Dad.
it.
Yeah. It was and he articulated it really well, which I won't be able to do about. There's this middle ground between like the craziness of manifestation and the reality of what you focus on, and there's a middle ground that has a pretty special power.
Well, and I think manifestation can be negative too, right? Like if your focus is the wrong thing in life, that'll manifest itself as well.
It almost means your focus, or it's like when it says God will give you everything your heart desires. Well, your heart doesn't actually desire a Lamborghini. Like if you're in touch with God, there's going to be certain desires that He's going to give to you, and so that's kind of what it means. There's a book, and I can't think of his name at the moment. It'll come to me, called The Slight Edge. That book was very impactful for me as well, because it was
Slight Edge. Okay.
Slight Edge, and the principle is extremely simple. It's literally whatever, it's something specific, a journey to do something, to accomplish something, to build something. Just get 1% further every day. What a simple concept. But I found that book pretty impactful for me as well.
Yeah, 1% better a day. That's pretty. It is simple. It's just little steps forward.
Yeah. Right.
Progress.
Dave says it really well in the book that, if you can sustain a business, and then that's all you need to do, because as long as you're doing things right, success, whatever that means, will come over time when the time is right. And I don't believe in coincidences, and I believe that we all have a path, and so that was a powerful, impactful moment for me as well.
That's cool. So Kurt, what's the legacy you want to leave?
It's so funny that you've started this podcast called Legacy at a time in my life where, I'm 37, I'll be 38 this year, but 40's coming, and 30 didn't feel very weird for me, but 40, growing up, your parents were in their 40s.
Yeah.
Your parents, again, we talked about this earlier, your parents are adults, they got it figured out, they got everything. Like, well, that's not really how this works. And so for me, my legacy is being purposeful to build successful businesses that can make a lot of money so that I can help a lot of people, and then I can have a lot of fun. And with that, it's being intentional about our community here. I want to build a legacy that impacts Indianapolis, impacts Hamilton County. And right now, one of my biggest opportunities for that is with Young Life. To me and to us, I'm passionate about growing Young Life throughout the state.
It starts at the next generation, right?
Right. I mean, now more than ever, what kids, whether it's social media or everything else we could talk about, just getting Jesus in the lives of kids is the core of what we're doing there. And so that to me is an opportunity for me to leave a legacy. Building a book of successful businesses with a focus on redemptive entrepreneurship. A gentleman named Greg Enos introduced me to that. And so growing the kingdom through my businesses, whether that's intentional and blatant through the business or getting those funds to be able to pursue things there. I want to be an incredible father, incredible husband. I want to be an incredible uncle, and continue to be an incredible brother and son. And those, hands down, are first and foremost. And with that is being a role model. But that's obviously very important. I want to be the ring leader of our family, our clan that is just growing.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to build a life for my family.
Yeah.
To be safe, to be able to do the things we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be intentional about affecting our community. And Young Life is a purposeful one. I hope that school safety is that next one. But I want to build a local legacy, and I want to build a legacy for my family.
I think that's important that we go back to where we're at. Let's quit worrying about everywhere else in the world. Let's worry about where we're at, the people we're around daily, the people we can actually, touch and, like be around, have in-person relationship with. That's huge.
It is huge.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, Kurt, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you.
We'll do this again.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
We'll do it at Rivet,
Yeah.
without the mics. Thanks, Will. Appreciate you, dude.
Talk soon.
Yeah.